You're listening to the First Fight Podcast, home of the people and stories behind the fight. I'm Jennifer Anderson, the host and creator. My goal is to give you a peek into the remarkable world of fighting and create a platform for fighters to tell their stories. In each episode of this series, a different fighter shares a transformative story of their first time. Welcome back, everyone. Today I talk with legendary coach Jason Strout. This is a special episode to me because Jason and I actually both got our start at the same gym, under the same coach, had our first fight at the same venue in Milwaukee. So it's really cool talking with him, hearing his perspective. We talk a little bit about the journey that fighting has taken him on, his gratitude for the life he lives, our mutual beginnings, of course, and how he transitioned into coaching. Jason is now at Sanford MMA, so we talk a little bit about what he sees for his future there as well. So I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time. I've seen you around, obviously. You started fighting under Duke.
Yeah, so it was like, I'd say like 1999, I think it was when it started. So I like boxing. I just like fighting. And I was like, I kind of want to do this. I had a friend that used to go to his gym and kickbox, and a couple of people that would go to the gym, and I knew about it. I knew about Rick Rufus. You always hear about Rick Rufus growing up, this like kickboxing legend guy, whatever, his back fist. Like bouncers would talk about it at clubs and stuff. It was just like, Rick Rufus was the man, like, of that era. And then I started learning more about Duke, and then I saw that he used to put on kickboxing events at the Eagles Ballroom and Rave. We used to go watch concerts. You go to watch, bands play or whatever. And then I saw, man, we looked down the list to see who was playing, like, which bands were coming to town. And I'd see, oh, what's this Muay Thai? It sounds pretty interesting. And like I said, I learned more about it. I had a friend that would train with him, Paul Gazzo, who's passed away, but he used to go train there. And a couple other people, like if you did any kind of Muay Thai, you did it there, So I was like, oh, I got to go check this out. So a friend of mine, she bought me ticket for my birthday to go watch the fights, So I was like, all right, finally get to go. And I remember walking into the event, and Kong Napa was fighting. I didn't know who he was at the time, but I know who he is now. And I walk in and I see this guy jumping in the air and elbowing a guy in the top of the head. And I was like, oh man, I got to do this. This is, I was just wanting to box. Like we used to box in this lady's, like this apartment complex we kind of hung out at. And I would just box anybody. Like we'd put gloves on and like, all right, I could take a punch and I could throw a punch. So maybe I'll just start boxing, my uncle's box. I figured I'd do that. But when I went to that walked into the Eagles ballroom and I saw that guy elbowing the guy in the top of the head, I was like, all right, I got to do this. This seems a little bit more fun. You get to use other things other than just punching someone. It just seemed a little more violent. And that kind of was like right up my alley, It's like, so all right, I'm going to go check it out. So I went to the gym, down in Virginia Street in, I can't remember what the name of that neighborhood was. Just past downtown on the south side. Yeah, Walker's Point. Yeah. So I rode my bike there, I think, and I like went to check it out. I was like, hey, I want to sign up. What do I got to do? And went and took a class there, and I was like, I'm hooked. I was like, I want to fight. And they're all like, yeah. Everybody says that. Your first day, you want to fight. Like, no, I really do. Like, I want to fight. Like, this is what I want to do. And so I was like obsessed with it. Like instantly, I went like every single day. I'd go twice a day if I could. I don't even know if I was working construction then. I think I was. So I'd work during the day, and then I'd come at night. And then I was in a band, so we went on tour, and then I stopped doing construction and came back. I started working in a moving company, so I had a little more free time. So, like, I would train, days off. I'd train twice a day or whatever. And then, I kept going day to day, and then I finally got moved up to, like, the fighter class, whatever, fighter training. And then I was just like, man, this is great. Like, this is what I want to do, and this just seemed natural. And I remember, we'd spar a lot, kick sparring, light sparring. We give or take light, whatever you want to take that. But you move around. We clinched forever, like it was hard training. We'd show up at the gym. We'd all run together, which I thought was cool. Like I don't feel like too many people do that anymore. But we all ran together, and then we'd come back and jump rope as a team, and then we'd hit the bags as a team. And I always remember the intensity of like, I remember the guy hitting the bag next to me hard, and I'm like, I want to outdo him, and you could just feel the energy in the room of everybody trying to push themselves and go harder. and then we'd clinch, and we clinched for like 45 minutes to a half hour. It just seemed like an eternity. And it was the same thing where everybody was just pushing each other. And I was in there with Rich Kostick, who had tons of pro fights, James Downey, other guys that like been there for a while. And I was like, I'm trying to keep up with these guys and trying to outdo them, And so it was just always a really good environment to just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and just learning. Like everybody just kept getting better and better and better because we were all pushing each other to get better. And I think I remember, like you get closer to, getting ready to fight and, ask who wants to fight. And, of course, tell them I want to do it and see all of our, everybody's signing up. And I think it was right about that time where everybody went to the Nationals that year. So it was 99 when everybody went to the Nationals and everybody won and came back. And I was like, I was still new, so I didn't get to go. And I was like, I got to go next year. I can't wait, so it was something to train for. And then a group went out to New York to Church Street Boxing Gym, which is eventually where I ended up. And they sent the team, a couple guys out there to go fight. I wanted to go, but I wasn't fighting yet. So I was like, man, I want to do this. And I remember going to one of the fights in the Eagles ballroom, and Duke was fighting. He was fighting Dewey Cooper. And a fight fell off. So they were looking for somebody to kind of, fill in a space. And somebody walked up to me. I was in the crowd, belonged to the gym there for a while. And that was, I can't remember when, maybe I was doing it for 4 months or 5 months maybe. And someone's like, hey, do you want to go do an exhibition with this other guy from the gym? I was like, hell yeah. So I came out of the crowd. We went in the back locker room, and we just borrowed like shorts and the mouth guard and cut, whatever we could find, and they gave us the gloves and they stuck us out there, and we fought like 3 rounds. An exhibition. I just remember going out there and being in front of the crowd and like, all right, this is great. Like I don't remember being nervous. I just remember being excited to go out there and like get in a fight so all these people could watch me fight. It was just the greatest thing ever. And it was like, to me, like on the undercard of, Duke and this, it was like the best thing possible, So that was like the very first taste of getting in there. And then I think like a month or two later, so 6 months after walking into the gym, I had my first fight, and finally my first official fight.
Wow. And
I can kind of still remember, that was 2000, so it was like, what, 21 years ago, right? Yeah, so it's a long time, but I can still remember just the excitement of it, the weird emotions you kind of go through before it, like, because you don't know, it's the unknown. Like the exhibition was one thing. I knew the guy, like we sparred in the gym. Some days he'd get me, I get him. So there's that comfort level of knowing who you're going in there against, and it's like there's not that fear of the unknown. Mm-hmm. So now I'm going to fight this guy who has one fight. I think his name was Aaron Anderson. Wow, that's amazing. I remember that. And he was from Canada because we always seem to fight Canadians. And so they matched me up with him. I don't know if he won or lost, but he had experience. I'm like, oh, this guy's been in there. He's done it. He's had that taste, that fear. He's gone through everything, So that's in the back of your head. Like, I don't know if I ever thought, can I do it? I think all I was ever worried about was, well, there was 2 things ever. One was, am I going to be in enough? I don't want to get tired out there. That's one thing I'm always afraid of. I think every fighter's always afraid of that. Like, and that's when you do too much and leave it all in the gym. But I remember like, maybe another extra run. Maybe I'll, push myself just a little bit more, just so I make sure I don't get tired. That was one thing, the fear of getting tired. And the second one, if I got knocked out, I never wanted to get knocked out. And I remember watching Thai videos. We used to get tapes from the Thai store. And when guys would get knocked out, they like flop around, like do a funky chicken. And I was like, man, if I ever get knocked out, I don't want to be one of those guys that like, flop around and just get out cold, So that was 2 things to worry about: getting tired and then getting knocked out and looking silly getting knocked out. Like if you're laid out, that's one thing, but like trying to get up, flop around, it doesn't look so good. Mm-hmm. So I was worried about that. But I remember like laying in bed or wherever I was sleeping at the time, and just kind of like you get nervous, like you kind of like you get real like a weird anxious feeling. I remember just kind of, I guess, yeah, it was just nerves, like weeks beforehand, like you just kind of feel your chest get all like pounding. I'm like, what is, it was a weird feeling, like, because you kind of, I don't know, it's like you just, because you don't know what's going to happen, and it's, I think it was more, you don't want to be embarrassed, you don't want to look bad. I think those, I don't think I ever thought about losing. I just thought, like, when else I get out there and it just looks like you see some people in their first fight, it's like, what are they doing? Like swinging wild and just throwing everything at it and it doesn't look like it should. And I'm like, oh, I just hope I don't go out there and look like that. So as it gets closer to the fight, I'm back then I really didn't have to cut weight. It was like, I think I fought at 155 and I walked around like 160. So like, you just don't eat for 2 days. And
Yeah.
that's what you did back then. You just don't eat and weigh in the day of the fight. We weighed in, you know, and then you just get to it. That's just how it was. But I remember like running those couple days beforehand and then like taking the day off before the fight. And then, I remember showing up at the venue, you know, drove, I think I had a car. Someone had to drive me then. Showed up, you know, you walk into the rave and kind of go through these big doors and it's dark in there and it's kind of like, there's a scale and there's some people walking around and then you start looking at like the biggest people in the room. You're like, oh, that must be my opponent because I don't know what he looks like. So I start looking like maybe that's him and maybe that. And you're kind of like, maybe the scariest one in the room is him. And all these things go through your head. And then they call your name. Hi, Jason. And they call the other guy, Aaron, you know, come up to the scale. And you look at the guy, you're like, oh man, he's the same as me. You know, like I'm thinking I'm fighting the heavyweight in the corner. I'm fighting a guy that's, you know, like the same as me. And, you know, we weigh in and I start talking to him like, oh, this guy's a nice guy. Like, all right, this is gonna be a fun time, you know, and go leave, eat, you know, you fill yourself up full of garbage because you don't know what to eat at the time. It's 2000 and there was no nutrition. You just, you know, go eat pasta and wish for the best, you know. And then you come back at night and, you know, you're in the locker room, you get your back then we got massages, which was awesome. Like they do in Thailand there, they rub you down. So like, you know, we got my legs massaged, my back covered in this hot sauce and the Thai liniment. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but all right, I guess this is what we're doing. Lay on the table, you get rubbed down. And I remember Kong Pa was at the gym at the time, the very first guy I saw fight. And he was like, he trained us along with Duke. And I was like, you know what, you know, you start asking silly questions. Now it seems ridiculous. Worked so many damn fights and all the questions I've been asked. Now I'm like, you know, what do you think I should do in there? He's like, I don't know, punch, kick. I was like, I guess that makes sense. So, you know, you're waiting downstairs and you hear the crowd and people roaring and, you know, if someone gets knocked out, you're like, the whole place erupts and you're like, man, I got to go out there and do this. And it's all those things are going through your head. And I don't think I was afraid to go. I couldn't wait to get out there, but I was just still that anxious feeling of, what happens if I look bad? You know, what happens if I get out there, get tired, and look sloppy? I think those are the only things I was really concerned about. Like, if I look stupid out there, right? I mean, I think a lot of people think that and never say it. Like, what happens if I get out there and just look like horrible? So gets closer to the fight, you know, people are coming back, and most of the people are smiling from our corner because they've won. So that's great. It makes you feel good. Got my hands wrapped. That was like the best thing ever. Like, man, I wish, you know, you put your hand through a wall. It's like it's like putting on, I don't know, something about it, getting your hands wrapped. It just,
I love it. Yeah.
It puts you in that moment. You're like, this is it. You know, like this is like my sword and my shield, and it's time to go to battle. It's time to do this. You know, it's, you know, I get excited now. Even when I wrap guys' hands now, I still get in that kind of that zone. That
ritual. Kind of,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's a bonding moment between you and the fighter. You know, now that's what I feel like it is. Like when I wrap their hands, it's like this weird, intimate, personal moment where everything's kind of silent and there's a lot of focus and things going through your head, things are going through their head.
It's a privilege, you know, when someone's taking the time to wrap your hands.
Yeah. It's, and I think I even still have my wraps, probably at my mom's house, or who knows, from my first fight. But yeah, I remember going out there and, you know, you got the robe on and they call your name and like then we walked, you know, to the ring and it was like all these people, and I sold a lot of tickets for my first fight. So like, and we were in the rave, so it's like a double, you know, there's a floor and then a balcony. And I just remember walking out and like people are just screaming like crazy. I'm like, this is great. And like, I didn't really have many nerves and I just was like excited. I remember getting into the ring and I kind of like, I think I did like a lap in the ring and I'm like, yeah, this is it. This is where I should be. Like, this is amazing. Like this, like I get to beat someone up in front of all these people. And it's like the energy in the room, and then the bell rings and I go over there and get to hit the guy. And yeah, I remember even one part of the fight, you know, like Vitor Belfort was like popular where I thought he was like the greatest thing ever when I watched him in UFC back in the days. He'd like blitz guys and do this like running punch thing. And I remember I tried to do that in my fight. I remember there was a moment I was like, I want to try to do what Vitor did in the fight, and probably didn't look anything like what he did. But I was like, I'm going to run at the guy and punch him at the same time. And that was a good fight. And I remember at one point I had the guy also, and I was going to knee him in the head. And back then we could knee people to the face, which an amateur, whatever, why not? So I went to grab him and knee him in the head, and I was like, you know what, he's a nice guy. I'm winning the fight. I don't necessarily have to do this. So I kind of let him go a little bit, and then I just proceeded to punch him and kick him, whatever. And the bell rang, and I got the decision, and I was hooked. Like, and I think I fought again a couple weeks later, and I think I had like 10 or 11 fights that year. He just kept me busy, just fight, yeah, fight, and then it slowed down, and then it ended. But yeah, there's nothing like that first experience, like, I don't know, it's hard to describe unless you've done it, right? I mean, unless you've been in there and had that feeling, and then you see other people going through it with their first fights, or even like, I mean, every fight you feel like it. Every fight you feel like it's your first fight, and you get those weird nerves.
It gets a little better, but
it does, but it's still the same.
How like every camp, you get that fear, those nerves on and off, but you like always get in the mode. It's like your body just knows what to do. You're like, you always do it, but it's the same messy process every time. At least for me,
for sure.
Emotional.
I think for everybody, like, I go to these fights, these high level fighters, and everybody thinks the same. Everybody goes through that same. Some people don't even want to watch the fights the day of the fight. They're like, oh, we're in the hotel room before we go for later on in the card, and they're like, I don't know if I want to watch this, and it's just, I don't, like I said, it's been 20 years since my last fight was in 2003, so it's been a long time since I've been in there, so I never want to get too far removed from that feeling of what they're kind of going through, because I don't want to be like, hey, get in there, like, suck, like, I haven't done it how long? Like, how am I going to tell some guy what to do and how to feel when I haven't done it in such a long time, but you still see it. You still see the nerves. You still see everybody's kind of, and like you said, there's a routine, like people have done it so many times that and if you've been around them enough, you kind of know, okay, this is the step, and you kind of see them go through those little stages until the day of the walkout and the fight, and then it's over, it's I don't know, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like that. The highs, the lows, it's crazy. Then you had the fight and it's over, and it's like, now what? It's like this weird emptiness after, win, lose, or draw. It's like, I did all this. I focused all my energy. I was self-centered. I only focused everything on this, and then it's over. It's like, now what? Until the next one, right? Yeah. Until the next one. It's like, what's going to fill that void? What's going to take away that, replace that feeling, that all that goes into it.
You understand why it's so hard, I think, for people to step away from it too, because
exactly. I mean, how many fighters have come back when they maybe shouldn't have? Because there's that, there's the high, there's the super high and the super low, and it's like, I want to get back up there. There's nothing like that feeling. And even as a coach, like, you go through it. Like you work with this person, you're with them constantly, and you take them to this moment, and you go through it together, and then it's like, all right, shake your hand, give him a hug, see him on the airplane, he goes one way, you go the other way. You might not see him for a month or a week, and it's like, that was weird. It's like a breakup, it's like, it really is. It's especially the last week of the fight, like, you're with that person so much, and you go through those emotions with them, all the way up until they get into the cage or get into the ring, and you get in that last hug or the last, fist pump, and you're like, all right, I hope this, do your best, don't get hurt, yeah,
intimate,
it's like,
training is as well, but going to fights, and experiencing those highs and lows, you're like in the trenches with someone, so it's like real life emotions. It's not just everyday bullshit,
No, it's, and you really find out who they are, and you find out who you are, and it's like, there's nothing like it.
I mean, that's why I'm so interested in this. Obviously, I like hearing other people's stories too, because it's just it's kind of a mirror of life. It's not always fair, and
no, it's not. No, it's not.
You hate it sometimes. I hate it, and then I love it.
I mean, there was a point where I was like, so when I went to Bangkok, and I was living there and doing the commentating for the Absolute Muay Thai, and it was like the perfect time when I went there, because some of the fighters I trained, they were either getting old or they kind of went elsewhere, and so I was kind of I didn't have a lot of people that I was working with. I had a couple boxers, but it was like at one point I was like working with a lot of people, and everything was going great, and then it kind of like had a little bit of a, the low, and I was like, all right, I got an opportunity to kind of maybe change it up and try something different, and not just train fighters, but go do this commentating and see where it takes me. And then I'm in Asia, and it's like, I'm just kind of working out for myself and doing this, and it's like, I took a step back. I'm like, I don't know, maybe this isn't so bad. Like, that stress isn't there. The like, did I prepare them enough? Did I show them the right things? That, all these things that you think of as a coach, and many coaches won't admit, like, especially when your guy loses or your girl loses, like, oh, like, it's all on you. You feel like you did it. You feel like you let them down, or you didn't, show them the right things or guide them, or it's just horrible. So when I took that step away from it, I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll try something new. And then, the COVID hit and everything kind of really shut down. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going to leave Bangkok, and I ended up back at my mom's house in Milwaukee. And I'm like, I don't know, what am I going to do? Maybe I'll just go hang drywall.
Church Street.
So I left Church Street. I'd say like, I was probably like the end of, probably middle of 2019. And I moved to Bangkok. Yeah, moved to Bangkok. Was working with Absolute Muay Thai. We were, my partner was buying content. And I was doing the color commentating along with Teddy Mulvey, who lives out there. So we were doing commentating and just doing fight stuff, and I didn't have to train any fighters. It was different, I missed it. And I did go to this gym, and then some guys had asked me to kind of help them work with me, and I'd hold pads. So I still got to do a little bit of it, but it wasn't like what I was doing before I left. And so it was just kind of nice to step away. And then like, then the world kind of went upside down for a little bit, and I was like, all right, I'm going to leave Bangkok because there's no work. I'm kind of going crazy sitting in this apartment, like I got to do something or I'm going to lose it. So I ended up back at my mom's house, and I was like, I don't know, what am I going to do? And I remember going back to Dupes, and I think he kind of wanted, I was going to like teach some classes there, but I was like, I don't know, like this COVID thing, I don't know if this should be in this room with all these people. I'm living with my mom, it was still new. I didn't know what was going on. And then I went back to New York for a little bit, and I was just hanging out there, and I was like teaching classes back at Church Street again, and they were doing them outside. So I'm like, oh, I'll teach a couple classes. And I was like, oh man, this feels good again, like to teach again, even if it's just people to get, for fitness, and some of them were amateur fighters, but it just kind of felt good again. Like, oh, I got that taste again where I was like, I do love this, like I did miss it. Like, this is a huge part of my life. I don't want to just, go do construction and change everything and just put that in the past. I was like, I really do love it. And it was nice to step away from it and do something different, and then, kind of be reintroduced to it. And then I was living I kind of stayed at a friend's house, and I'd stay in my van, just kind of wherever, teaching those classes. And then it got to be like the middle of winter, and I was like, man, it's getting cold. I can't be, just kind of sleeping outside my van and doing whatever. So I went back to Wisconsin for like Christmas, and that's when Jared Gordon hit me back up. And he's like, hey, and, I kind of want you to come work with me again. I'm down in Florida. And then Henry Hooft hit me up. He's like, hey, would you be interested in coming and check out our place? We're looking for another trainer to kind of get a lot of people. I was like, all right, I'll come down there and check it out. Never been to Florida, like been all over the world. Never been to Florida. Every time I'm supposed to go to Florida, something bad like would happen, and I'd never get to go. And I'm like, oh, is this a curse? Or maybe not even go. So I left my mom's house after the New Year's, got in my van, packed up some stuff, and just drove from Milwaukee down to wherever I am. Where am I? Boca, Deerfield Beach, whatever. Just drove down there, met Jared, and then went to the gym, and then I'm here to September, and I'm still here. Like, and I got a job at the gym now, and it's like, I kind of fell in love with it again. I get to train fighters, and I get to be around fighters, and everybody wants to learn. And it's just such a new environment. And it's just like, wow, I do love this. Like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to finish my life doing, just because it's great. And just the people you meet, and the effect you have on people. You don't realize it, there's that connection you get between someone and when you train them, and when they fight, or even just, I don't know, it's just nothing like it, and it's like, if I would have never went to the gym back then, or even got, my friend bought me that ticket to go watch the fight, like, who knows, what I would end up, why wouldn't have been good. Because I remember even when I started going to the gym back in Milwaukee, I was like, friends would want to go out and do things, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do those things anymore, because if I get in trouble now I can't go do something that I actually love, that I found like gives me that feeling that maybe I was missing, and that like, I don't know, like a purpose, or like I have something that I kind of care about, other than just messing around, getting in trouble, and kind of just floating through life being clueless. I don't know. It's just it's crazy how it all turned out, and if I would have never, I mean, I still text Duke all the time, like, thanks, man, like for introducing me to this life and showing me what this is all about, and even just giving me good fundamentals to be able to build my career to where it is today. Like I could have walked into any gym. I could have went to a boxing gym on the South Side and been like, all right, whatever, being beat up, used up, and sent away. But no, I went, met him, and he trained me properly, got me the right opponents, and just kind of, I don't know, like, did a lot for me. I'll never forget that guy. And like I said, I text him all the time. We talk all the time still, and I'm really appreciative of what he this life he showed me. It's great. It's great.
It's an art that once you accept the type of lifestyle it is and commit to it, it's like amazing, because not a lot of people live a life like that, with passion, and it's not something that's around a lot anymore, and it's real, and I think I like it, or I can't speak for other people, but I think it's a cool thing to do because it kind of like brings you closer to death. Like fighting is the most alive you'll feel, and then teaching people that, and like I said, you're developing real relationships with people. You're discovering who they really are. What they're made of, what you're made of, and even just teaching like hobbyists and whatnot. You can still learn a lot. It's like a never-ending quest, really.
And a never-ending, like, you never stop learning. Like, that's what I think. Like, I can't pay attention to anything. Like, I don't think I've been into anything this long in my entire. Well, maybe a couple things, but it's just every day I'm like, oh, I'll watch like a video, or I'll see something, or I'll, now that I'm around other trainers and just fighters from all over the world, and you're like, oh, okay, it's just a different way of looking at it, and it's just, I don't know, I just try to go at it with an open mind now, and just keep absorbing and just keep learning, and just, I don't know, it's there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. Like I feel, even when I'm like sitting in a hotel room, like stuck in the Residence Inn in the middle of the desert, like, all right, like, oh, this is boring, but it's like so many other people would do anything to be in our situation, like to be able to do this, like, so you get some downtime, like, how great is this? I get to go do and help people get better and experience something in their life that they'll never forget the rest of their life. It's like, I don't know, it's just, I don't know, it's amazing. Like, the only thing I use to describe it, it's just, and only a few people get to experience it, and those people that do, I feel like we're in a special club, right? Like we have this weird.
You can tell when like they don't speak the language, like you can tell.
Yeah,
it's such a small community, I would say, but it's a global community, and I love that. Like,
for sure. That's
you
the thing.
Have people from all over, and you all speak the same language.
Yeah. I mean, I remember like we'd all go out to eat sometimes at this Thai restaurant, back in Milwaukee after training, after a Friday night. And it's like, all these people from different walks of life. You a guy that works as an engineer at Buell, a guy that does this, but somehow we can all get along. We're all, speaking the same language. We have something in common. We've all just beat each other up. We all went through some very intense training, and it just kind of makes a bond that like, I still talk to these people today, like people I've trained with 20 years ago, like give them a call. Hey, how you doing? Oh, things are great. Like, you build that friendship that just doesn't go away, like, it's nothing like it. Nothing like it. It's great.
Well, I can see that in you. I've seen you. Well, I would spar at Henzo sometimes too, and you would coach sometimes, right? When
I come down there for the sparring. Yeah.
I mean, I can see because we've learned from the same person but you have that same passion too. I mean, I might not have always like agreed with Duke, but he gave me that passion. I can say that. Like, I will always be grateful for that, because you don't expect to find that kind of level of I don't know, that high level of fighting or Muay Thai in Milwaukee. It's a diamond in the rough.
Of all the places, like, how weird is that? Milwaukee, like, I mean, you'd think you'd be like, in New York or a bigger city, but no, it's like this man, this like It's like Wizard of Muay Thai from Milwaukee. It's like
legit, yeah.
yeah, and he's it's like he knows his shit and he loves it. Like he loves it more than anything. Like he knows so much about it. And I just happened to be born there, so I was like, all right, let's check this out. You know, I went there, then I ended up in New York because of that. Because, like I said, when he sent that team to New York to fight at Church Street, where Justin Blair was doing shows, when I went to go visit New York, he's like, hey, go check out my buddy Justin's gym. And I went and checked that out. I ended up moving around with this guy, Chris Romulo, in a class I took there. And then I ended up moving to New York. And I was like, well, I'll go see if this guy, you know. Oh, I actually moved to New York. And then Chris Romulo was like, hey, man, I hear you're in New York. You stayed in touch. He's like, would you mind training me for a fight? I was like, all right, why not? You know, like, why not? I guess so. Because he thought I got the better of him in the sparring that day. I was like, whatever, I'll help him out. And he's like, hey, a spot opened up to teach classes. And then I go, I'll teach classes. And then one thing led to another. And then at one point, I was a partner with the gym. I ended up owning half of it. And it was like, then I sold it and I continued to work there. And then I went to Bangkok. But it's like, if I wouldn't have went there and Duke didn't know him, then just how things just kind of, you know, and everything just kind of, yeah, it's weird. It all falls into place. And
yeah.
And I've been all over the world. Like, I would have never gotten a plane if it wasn't for this. Like, we had a guy fighting in Las Vegas in 2000 in the K1 tournament. And up to that point, I was like, I never want to get on a plane. Like, it didn't make sense to me. I was just that guy. Like, I don't want to get in the air. Like, it seems stupid. Why is it flying? You know, like, what an idiot. And then I got on a plane. And I was like, all right, then I went to Vegas. Now I've been to Vegas, like, I don't even know how many times.
Yeah.
And then I moved to New York. And then Duke called me up. He's like, hey, I got these guys fighting in Spain. I can't go. Will you go corner them? I'm like, all right, why not? Got a passport. Never had a passport. So I got a passport to fly to Barcelona to go work a corner for two guys that he trained. But since I worked, you know, whatever with him, he's like, I trust Jason. He knows what he's doing. And I went to go work these two kickboxing world title fights with these two guys in Barcelona. So got on a plane with myself, met them there. And I was like, I've never been to Spain. I've never been out of the country. Like, and now I've been all over the damn world because of this. You know, it's just, it's amazing. Like, I just really appreciate it every day. You know, like, every time I'm sitting in a hotel room and, like, things may be boring or whatever, I'm like, I would have never, who knows what I've been doing? You know, like, and I get to do this. I get to do what so many people love to do. So many people show up at these events, UFC events, to watch these people, and I just get to hang out with them. Like, just, I got the best seat in the house in cage side, you know, like, It's amazing. It's amazing.
Now, what made you shift over to coaching more? Did you?
Well, yeah. So, yeah, I had about 25 fights in a very short period of time. So, like, 2000 my first fight, 2003 was my last fight. So they kept me very active.
Oh, yeah.
Very busy. And I had numerous exhibitions. Huh?
There's a lot more kickboxing back then, I feel like.
Yeah, but at that, I remember after first year I fought as much as I could, and then there wasn't many fights then. It was like people didn't want to fight. Like, oh, he's got a lot of fights, and I had a lot of wins, and so then the guys didn't want to stick their guys against me. It just, or maybe that's what I was being told to make myself feel better, but it was like, it seemed like, I don't know, like when they were trying to match guys up, it was like either you're going to fight like really, really tough dudes or like nobody else wanted to fight you. It was kind of like there was no in between. Mm-hmm. So I had a lot of fights that first year, and then I had a couple fights. I remember fighting like every Canadian in the world from up there, and every tough Canadian. And then I hurt my knee in an exhibition. And then they're like, Duke's like, hey, there's a boxing fight. You want to try that? And I was like, all right, I like boxing. Like, I feel pretty good at it. And then I started doing more boxing. I was like, oh, geez, this is great. But that's tough. The sparring and tough for boxing is a lot tougher. So now, I had my last fight in 2003, which was a boxing fight. My last kickboxing or Muay Thai fight was in 2002. I fought in San Jose, and then I came back to Milwaukee and fought for some ISKA or IKF title. And the guy hurt his leg in the second round. I was like, I didn't even get like a real fight out of it. Like, I wanted to like leave beat up, whatever, like earn it. Yeah. And he was injured, so whatever. And then I had my last fight was a boxing fight. And, the brain just didn't feel right. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll take some time off and let this kind of sort itself out. And then I was like, I don't know if I'm going to fight anymore. Like, I don't know what to do. And I was dating this girl at the time. She moved to New York, and I had friends that lived in New York. I'm like, why don't I just go out there and just see what's up? So I packed my car. I had this like 1996 Pontiac 6000. Like, let's just see if it makes it. Packed up some stuff in the back seat, drove out there, and one day the car didn't start, and they towed it away, and so I'm like, I guess I'm sticking around New York for a while. and then, like I said, that guy at the gym, Chris Romulo, asked me if I could help train him for a WK national tournament him and this guy Carlos Savalas. I was like, yeah, I'll give it a try. I'll train that. I did a little bit of training at Duke's. Like he gave me a team of amateurs to work with, and they all did really well. So I was like, I don't know, this is kind of fun. And so I trained Chris, and then I ended up taking Chris throughout his pro Muay Thai career. I think he had like 14, 15 fights. So like he kind of helped jumpstart my training career. And always in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, I want to fight again, because that never goes. Even now, like I'll be sitting here late at night, I'm like, man, I don't know, maybe I'll do one of those bare knuckle fights. Like, I think about it, and then you go spar at the gym. You're like, I don't know, do I really want to deal with this? Like, get hit in the head, and it's like, it doesn't come back as fast as it did before, but that never goes away. Like, even I'll be at fights, and I'm like, man, I could have beat him. Like, maybe I should still do this, like,
well,
that feeling never
first, you'll always
it never even like I've been sparring lately, I'm like, I have no business doing that, especially with the guys at the gym. Like, these guys I'm getting in there with, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, it's fun, but it's like, I just too much to risk. Like, one shot, like, who knows? Like, but the coaching thing, I just started training these guys, and they'd bring me other guys, like, hey, if you're looking to fight, Jason can help you. And I was working with boxers and Muay Thai, and then I think like Phil Nova came and Dave Branch, and that was kind of like when I started working with MMA people, MMA fighters, and I was like, all right, let's figure this out, and then it just kept going from there. And now I'm at Sanford MMA here in Florida, working with high level guys, like, it's crazy. Like, and it's some of the guys I work with, like guys that have been around as long as I have, like Nate Marquardt. Like, it's awesome. Like, being in the gym with that guy, like Vitor Belfort was there, and I was like, trying not to be a fan and being like, man, I remember thinking about you in my first fight. Now you're asking me to hold pads.
Well, if
like,
you're passionate, you're going to be a fan about, things that are good, just like a musician is going to know what good music is.
It's just so fun. And there's people from all over the world here. Like today I've moved around the guy from Japan and Azerbaijan, and it's just all over the place. And it's just, I don't know, it's just cool, man. It's just, I feel so lucky to be able to do this, and that someone thinks that what I'm telling them makes sense, which still blows my mind to today. It's like, I guess, I don't know. It's weird.
Now, as a coach, what would you say, if you can pick one, is like the most important trait a fighter has that you think would make them successful?
I guess there's a lot of traits. I mean, I guess probably the most important is just an open mind and willing to learn and willing to improve. Like, some people don't want to listen. Like, they're not, and I've seen that so many times. They're not going to go anywhere. They don't want to hear the truth. If you're able to, you could build anybody. I mean, there's got to be a little something in there too. There's got to be that little something that a fighter has, a real fighter, not like a person that come to the gym sometimes. It's like, you got to have like a little bit of crazy, like a little bit of, all right, like that's got to be in there. That's got to be in the mix. You can't just, you can have talent, you can have all this and that, but if you don't have that grit, that, all right, I'm ready to go through this, like, to this darkest place as possible, and then just push through it, then you're not going to make it. You got to have thick skin, or you got to have, I guess heart, I guess probably the best way to describe it, but also the open mind. There's like a formula, because you can have, I've worked with guys with all the skill in the world, like, wow, this guy's talented, but they don't have that to get them to that next step, or they have the guy who has all of that, no skill, and it's like, sometimes they get farther, it's, and people can say, I want it. You can say that all you want, but you can say it, but doing it and saying it are two different things. Like, you got to put in that work. You got to put in the little extra, especially if you want to be, I mean, everybody wants to be the champion. They want to be the best, but you got to have that special something, that little extra, that I'm going to push it just a little bit more. And it's not like you're just hanging out at the gym, and you got to like put in that little bit more, that little fine tuning, those little details, and that's going to bring you to the top. And you can't have somebody do it for you, right? You can't have the coach like dragging you, and then you got to have it. You got to want it. You got to have that. Like, I mean, Corey's a great example. How many times I've seen him cut weight, and nobody's got to tell him to do it. Like, his trainer's over in the corner. He's on the treadmill. Like, he's doing it. Like, he's in there. He's going to get it done. He's got that. That's something that a lot of fighters think they have, but
Well,
it's like,
you most definitely need to be self-motivated to be a fighter.
yeah,
It's,
yeah.
you see now with these bigger teams, you're getting guys that are talented, but they're
Yep.
not, they don't have that self-motivation because they have that big
No.
team and they won't get far.
Yeah, for sure.
They're
No,
front runners in the beginning, but I don't
yeah,
see them
yeah,
doing
for
well in
sure.
the long run.
No, definitely for sure. There definitely is a lot of that, like, ego will get you so far, but if you're not putting in that extra, that the stuff that the stuff you're not recording, sticking on Instagram, like the stuff, the little things, like you got to do those things to get better. Like I don't want to turn around and see you sitting there waiting for me to hold pads for you. You should be shadow boxing. You can hit the bag. You can be, drilling takedowns. You can, shadow wrestling. So many things you can be doing to make yourself that much better. Like, why am I the only one in the room sometimes shadow boxing? Like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, there's just little things like that. Like, there's that little extra that some people have and some don't. And some people don't know that's what it takes. And you got to be shown. And then sometimes they take it and they run with it, and it's like, oh, no, I got the formula. And certain people can take that formula and like, really make it like an artist with a perspective of something. It's like, oh, I can paint that. But then you get it in the right hands and the right mind. It's like, oh, wow, I can never even thought of that. You plant that little seed. And that's what's great too about being a coach is you can plant those seeds and see which ones grow. You got a whole garden out there and you just give them all little bits and just seeing which ones take off, And I've learned a lot from being around Kami Barzini with that. Like he kind of takes that approach where it's like he gives them little things and then he kind of just watches them, sprout, bloom. Yeah. It's cool.
That's a true coach, like each fighter, it's kind of like having kids. They're their own individual. They have their own skill set, build, the way they move, and they got to kind of figure it out on their own.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like he was teasing me, like Tommy was talking to me tonight before I left. Like, you're gonna have a kid one day. I'm like, I got tons of them. I got them all over this room. Like a boxer I used to train, years ago stopped by today, and I was like, oh, just great to see him. And it's like, like I haven't seen him in years, and he stops by, and it's like you get that feeling, and you're like, oh man, like just love this kid. Like there's like he's a part of my family. Like I've been through some ups and downs with him, and it's like there's that. I guess we've talked about that bond that just doesn't go away. There's just that special thing when you've kind of been in the trenches with them, and it's like, man, yeah, I got tons of kids. I got them everywhere.
Well, Jason, I appreciate you taking the time. You're
you're
a true artist. I can see that in you.
Thank you.
And I don't know, are you going to be at Sanford for a while, or are we just seeing what happens?
I mean, I've got this apartment now, so I'll be here for a while. I parked the van, so now I got a place to live, a little domesticated. So we'll see. Yeah. I mean, I'm having a good time here. Like I said, I'm learning a lot. Just being around the different coaches too, and just the fact that Henry like invited me in and has such an open mind about it. It's just, I've seen so many coaches with, kind of my way or this is how it's done, and it's like he's just so laid back, and it's just such a good environment there too. Like Greg Jones, just another good dude. It's like it's just like, all right, we're all friends now. Like I just talked to Greg, he's over in Abu Dhabi, like we just FaceTime each other, like we've been friends forever, and like I stayed after tonight, me and Kami hung out in the parking lot and talked for like a half hour, and it's like, and then Henry called me because he's in Vegas with Bronson, and he's like, so we like FaceTime. It's like, I don't know, it's like a little family, and it's just, it feels nice to have that like open, and like also that nobody's really telling me what to do. They like appreciate what I do, and I like that, and I appreciate what they do, and I learn from them and watching their coaching styles. And it's, I used to read these books back in the days about Stillman's boxing gym in New York, and it was like, it seemed like all the trainers would work together. They kind of help each other, and that's how it grows. Like if you just keep it like, oh, this is my way, it's a secret.
No,
like
the culture is like huge,
Yeah, but that's how it seemed like it was. It was like all the fighters would be in there, and everybody had their own fighters, but they'd all be kind of helping each other instead of trying to like hide these secrets. Like, how is it supposed to grow? How are we all supposed to get better and improve? I mean, I know there's certain things you don't want to like, like you got your style, whatever, but it's just nice to be in this environment where everybody has their own little style, but it all seems to work together, and nobody's like, oh, you should do it this way or that. And nobody's like, I mean, I've been to boxing gyms in New York where it's like, who are you working with? And it's like, oh yeah, he doesn't do it like this. It's like, it's all the same thing. It's all punching or it's all kicking. It's like just a different way to explain it, interpret it. I'm going to be here I don't know, for a while, yeah. Unless I end up in, I don't know, who knows, Europe, Asia, I don't know, a beach somewhere, hiding, I don't know. Who knows?
Well, that's cool. I'm excited to see your work there.
Yeah. I know it's fun.
Hot spot right now. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll run into you somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure we'll see each other. Yeah, for sure. All right, it's good talking to you. Say hi to everybody.
Okay,
All right.
have a good one.
All right, see you later. Bye-bye.
Once again, a big thanks to Jason for taking the time to rap a little bit about our love for fighting and his experiences and his story. I really appreciate it. We wish him nothing but the best at Sanford MMA, and I'm looking forward to seeing his influence on more fighters. For everyone else, thank you for listening, of course. You can always check out our archived episodes on the website, firstfightpodcast.com, and you can continue to listen to us. Please like, rate, share, review, do whatever you can to help get the word out about my project. Thanks again.